You disappoint me. Why? I told you if I got 20 likes on that last video that I would make another one of these. And unfortunately, I know that someone decided to make several different accounts just to like the shit out of that video. So you know what? I did not want to do this, but you have forced my hand. What I'm about to read is going to disturb me just as much as the last thing did. So, ladies and gentlemen, you guys are terrible. You're gonna regret this, so am I. But without any further ado, stop looking at my face, and let's just get into reading the fucking hat fic. God help us all. Hey Dan, can we get a hamster? I always wanted one, but my roommate never thought that we would look after it. Phil, we've already talked about this. You wouldn't look after it properly. You can hardly look after yourself, he retorted. It wasn't really in an angry way, but he never even took into account that I was actually older than him and lived by myself before. So getting a hamster wouldn't be that bad. I decided not to argue. Dan was stubborn and wouldn't change his mind. I was going into town later anyway, so I needed to get changed. I put on my usual skinny jeans and top on. I finished getting the pieces of food Dan and I needed, and started heading back to the bus, when I walked past a pet shop. I couldn't resist, but walked in and saw a cage with a small, fluffy, black and white hamster sitting in the corner. I looked at the price and saw it was only $10. It was too small and cute to say no to, so I bought it in the cage. I walked just as my bus arrived. I put my fare and hopped in. I couldn't stop smiling. Buying my hamster was, well, one of the best things I've ever done. Or, that was what I thought. I got home and shouted out to Dan, "Dan, come and see what I bought." He bounced into the hallway and front door. "What's up?" I raised the cage with a small ball curled in the corner again. The expression on his face turned from sweet and innocent smile to a sick and twisted one, with an evil glint in his eye. "I love it. I was completely wrong about saying no to getting one." He sounded genuine. But there was something about the way he said it that made me feel uneasy. "So, what's it called?" Dan asked. "Can we call it Striker, please? I've always loved that name. I really don't know why." "Sure," he replied. His reply was cold and harsh. What was wrong with him? I shrugged it off and went into my room. It was only 9 p.m., but I was tired and felt a bit ill. I pulled on my PJ bottoms and slipped into bed. I woke up during the night, my body freezing and cold. I was unable to move. I opened my eyes. They were wide with shock. I looked out as I was naked, with ropes tying me to a chair. Fucking, of course. Of course we're back to fucking tying ourselves up with fucking ropes. What's it with all these goddamn fanfics and tying people to fucking chairs? And in the corner was a sinister-looking Dan who was also naked. "Morning, Sleeping Beauty. I was wondering how cold the room had to be for you to wake up." His voice sounded so fluffy and innocent, but yet the words coming out weren't. He was only wearing his fluffy brown hat. He pulled it off of a small black creature sitting in it. Striker. What the fuck was he doing? I don't normally swear, but this situation was so confusing, and I was terrified. What was Dan going to do to me? Dan, what are you doing? Why am I tied up? Why? I stopped as he moved towards. His expression changed from being happy like when I woke up to murderous. "Dan, don't be scared, Phil. We're going to have some fun with Striker." He cackled menacingly and showed off his erect member, making mine start to rise. He put the hat down, Stryker still sitting in there, and faced it with his legs in perfect height to aim into it. He's gonna fuck a hamster, isn't he? He is going to fuck a goddamn hamster, isn't he? Dan, what are you doing? Please stop. He stormed over to me and gave me a rough kiss. Everything will be okay, I promise. Dan grabbed a gag from behind me and put it over my mouth. He walked over to the hat and began to stroke, looking over me as he did so. After a short time, his seed exploded into the hat. But he didn't stop there. He kept going on until the hat was filled up to the top. It's not how it works. The white liquid was nearly spilling over the top, and the poor hamster was barely able to breathe. It was doing the doggy paddle just to stay alive. Okay, just to survive. It was doing the doggy paddle just to survive. The fucking grammar in this fanfiction is cancerous. This is fucking disgusting. Why? Not just the grammar is terrible. And all I could do is sit and watch. Dan grabbed the hamster's head and pushed it down into his sperm. After 5 minutes of the sick game, he pulled it back up dead. He snapped the hamster's head off. Neck and bones shattered, making me mumble. That was something about a scream. Tears flowed down my face and squeezed the blood of Stryker into the hat. He looked over me. He was sick and twisted, but almost kind of sexy. He picked up the hat and moved towards me. With one hand, he undid the gag. "Open wide," he said in a sarcastic tone. I did as I was told. I didn't know what else was hiding behind me. He began to pour the cum, and partly because it was gone and cold, also because I knew it was my hamster's blood I was drinking. The fucking grammar is cancerous in this. He pulled back halfway through. Not that I was complaining, and said, "Good, little Phil. Do I taste good?" My eyes widened. What do I say? I opened my mouth when he slapped me. "Speak, bitch!" Wanted to raise my hand to my face. My cold face strung with his hot and sick hand touched it. You taste amazing, Dan." I managed to choke out. "Yeah, I do. Time for some more fun." I didn't like where this was going. To be continued. Okay, before I continue this, the fucking grammar in this is cancerous. There's a reason why I'm stuttering so much. I didn't stutter as much as in the last one. The fucking grammar in this story is so fucking bad. It makes me just want to stop reading, but no, I gotta continue. I have to see what's gonna happen with this hamster. Where are they going to shove it? Are they going to shove it up someone's anus? Let's find out, shall we? That was wrong. I'm not gonna do that again. I'm sorry. Fuck, why am I doing this? He pulled the black body that was coated in white from the hat. Dan rammed it down my throat, causing me to gag. My gag reflexes kicking in, and I vomited all down myself. Dan smirked at this and got on his knees and began to lick all over me. His soft tongue was gliding all around me until it found his way to my throbbing erection. He started at the tip and worked his way down, deep-throating me. It felt so nice. Most people couldn't do this, but it didn't last long. He looked up at me. His innocent brown eyes made me melt. "Promise me you won't run." He sounded so sorry, so I nodded. He got up and untied me. He grabbed me by my shoulders. I'm gonna lie on the floor, and you're going to pour the rest of the hat on me, then lick it off, alright? He growled. Sweet, loving Dan was gone then. I quickly nodded as he got onto the floor. I grabbed the hat and poured it onto him, just as he commanded. I began to lick it off. The mixture wasn't as bad as last time. I think it's because I'm not having it forced down my throat. "Suck it off, Phil!" He sounded so weird, but yet again, I did as I was told. I wasn't as good as him. I could only fit half of him in my mouth before I felt sick. I was going for what seemed like forever before he pushed my head away. You've done well, but there is one last thing I need you to do. He pulled the hamster's head from the pile off leftover sick. From the pile of leftover sick? Okay, fucking hell, this grammar. When you say stop, I will, but only if you think you've done enough. I started to shake and tremble. Dan put his arm around me. It's okay. It won't be that bad, he hushed me. He was so much nicer again. Are you ready? He asked me again, a sense of impatience growing in his tone. Yes, Dan, I stuttered out, and he quickly rolled me onto my front. His hand, placed on top of my back, pinned me down, the hamster's head in the other hand, and nearing my rectum. I knew what was going to happen. He rammed it in with no hesitation. A burning sensation sped through me. For the rest of it, he used his manhood to push it in. I wanted to say stop, but he wouldn't. I know it. Finally, it got too much, and I screamed out, stop! I looked out at Dan, who just grinned. Come on, Phil. I know you can do better than that. He forcefully went in further. Not quite all the way, though. Dan, please stop. I'm begging you. Stop. It's so sore. I pleaded. The burning sensation turned into a stabbing feeling. Dan stroked my hair and gently pulled out of me. The hamster's head was still inside. It felt horrible knowing that I had a dead animal's head sitting inside of my intestines. Dan put his hand inside me and he went deep. I cried out in pain. I felt like exploding. He finally showed me his hand with the head in it. I wished the torture was over, but I knew Dan would have other plans. But this time, he didn't. And just wrapped his arm around my hips. Let's go to bed, Dan said, pulling me up as he did so. I leaned in for a kiss, and so did he. We walked into my room, and when we got into it, he pushed me onto the bed. I thought he was going to want sex, but he was so caring and just spooned with me until he fell asleep. I woke up to find Dan with the hamster's body and head in his mouth, chewing violently, bones scraping and crunching under his teeth. He had blood dripping from his chin. He crawled over to me, and I licked it off for him. He grinned as though I had read his thoughts, and he finished eating. Every month from now on, we buy a new hamster. You people are fucking twisted, you know that? Why would you make something like this? And then, and no, just more like, why would I be forced to read this? I think I'm done reading these horrible fan fictions because they're fucking disgusting. The fucking community behind Dan and Phil is cancerous. I thought Leafy's community was terrible. Leafy himself is great, but the community is cancerous. But no, Dan and Phil's is worse. Jesus fuck. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, please make a comment down below. Make this torture worthwhile. Anyways, thank you for watching. I'm the lithium of black. You'll find me inside of your batteries. And I'll catch you all next time. Kill me, please.